allô. Le coq de l'école, le coq de l'école, allô, allô. Le coq de l'école, le coq de l'école, allô, allô.
What's up, Milwaukee? What's up to the rest of the United States? This is your boy Track Lacer. I know y'all gonna kill me for still repping them boys, man. ATL did us real bad in the Georgia Dome a few days ago, but hey, we went out like we thought that we could play. But at any rate, um, when you dealing with New Edition, you definitely dealing with something from my era. And when they flashed to the Roxbury Projects, Orchard Park to be specific, and they say 1978. It's just crazy because uh, I was literally a baby back then. So when I see Bobby Brown, Ralph Tresvant, Ronnie DeVoe, Michael Bivins, Ricky Bell, them cats, those would have been what we would consider in the hood. Those would be my big homies. So like when I'm 10 years old, those are the cats that's like 18, 19. You know, you really look up to people in the hood that's about 8 to 9 years older than you because they're not all the way old heads yet, but they old enough that they've been through experiences that you haven't been through yet. So it's kind of crazy to be reminded, that if I grew up in Boston instead of Milwaukee, that some of the cats around the way in the hood, Bobby Brown and them would be my big homies. Um, but I took some notes on the series, man. The very first note I took is what did I say? Oh, how they open up the movie series, the New Edition story. So they open up with Bobby Brown performing his solo material. Now the key about that is that Bobby Brown's first album came out in 1988. And like I said, I was a shorty, man. This was like middle school days. But the thing that was crazy about that album, it was called Don't Be Cruel was the name of the album. I want to say Bobby sold 7 million copies, and that album was hot for 2 whole years. Bobby's second album didn't come out till 1991. So that lets you know how popping, how long Bobby Brown was cracking as a solo artist off that first album. That 2 years after it came out, they doing a show in New Mexico in Albuquerque, and BBD is sharing the bill with them because BBD is Belle Biv DeVoe, and their first album came out in 1990, and they had one of the biggest hip hop R&B songs of all time, as you know, Poison. So they showed him being angry, and they said, "How long has he been out there tonight, man?" And there was a lot of legends about how just spotlight crazy Bobby Brown was back then, and how hard he worked to kind of show up New Edition, even when he was in the group, and then even more when they went on tour. And Bobby Brown had his set, and New Edition had their set. Um, it's crazy because I went to a show in Milwaukee when I was about 11 years old, and it was Al B. Sure, Bobby Brown, and New Edition. And I think Al B. Sure opened the show, and then I think Bobby Brown went on second, and then New Edition would come in last. But by then, New Edition had brought in Johnny Gill to replace him, but they still would do some songs with Bobby, just for old time's sake. But I know that had to be a little bit awkward because at this point, Bobby was a lot bigger than New Edition was, you know. So that was one though. I thought they did a real good job, especially when they just rewound time and brought you back to the projects when they was kids. Um, when they bring in Ace from Paid in Full, aka Wood Harris, he gives your movie instant credibility. You know, because he just has that perfect balance. He's not an A-list actor like Denzel, but he's a better actor than just a hood person. You know, like he's light years ahead of Lala. You know, Carmelo's wife, who had a part in part one of the movie. But Wood Harris Ace just brings that credibility. On the flip side, when Faison Love comes in, then it starts to feel like a TV movie again. You know, when it's just Ace and he's training the young cats on how to dance. Uh, I love the discipline that he made them have in terms of making them hold up heavy books and turning off the fan, make them perform in the sweat. It's kind of teaching them that in a lot of ways, being a performer is like being an athlete. You know, it's very demanding. You know, it's not that much different than a professional wrestler. A professional wrestler has to go from city to city. There's only 365 days in the year. Wrestlers are out there like 300. So in all total, they get like 2 months off that they spread out. But being an artist, whether you be rap or R&B, that's very popular, it's the same thing. So if you go in a different city every night and you got these hot lights on you, you have to have a level of physical stamina. You know, it's not about the fact of can I remember my song lyrics. It's do I have the physical energy as a human being to perform at this sold out show night after night. And these kids had to learn that at like 10 years old. So I thought they did an excellent job of kind of pointing that aspect of the music industry out. But like I said, Faison, I mean, he Big Worm. You know what I'm saying? When Big Worm comes on the screen, you not finna get no real authentic acting, man. I'm surprised he's been along. He's been around as long as he has since Ice Cube put him in Friday. But I'm saying, man, we talking 20 years later, man. He just really isn't a good actor. So he kind of brought the movie down a little bit back to a TV level. So I was a little disappointed in seeing him. Um, Probably the most powerful part of this first part one of the New Edition story. When they went to the studio, they won a talent contest, and then they go to the studio to record their first song. Bobby and I think Michael Bivins are fighting, you know, just like typical kids. Um, you know, Faison, aka Maurice Starr, is kind of put off, like saying this is real unprofessional. So he notices little young Ralph Tresvant is sitting in the corner and say, "Hey man, you got your lyric sheet?" He's like, "Yep." He's like, "Man, let's do this, man. Hey, take them out of the booth." You know, and the young man goes in there and then he starts killing it. Um, and if you notice, the other little kids got quiet and their mouths was kind of hanging open and they was looking like, damn. So obviously you knew that he was the star. He was the lead singer and he had that gift. He was ready. But B, him having his sheet and him not fighting like the rest of them was kind of teaching them at that moment that this is a job. And as you guys know, I'm a hip hop artist with a lot of history in Milwaukee and Atlanta for making music. So I can tell you back then, studio time was way more expensive than it is now. Because, since the success of gangster rap, I mostly say, uh, everybody has tried their hand at rapping. Almost every black man under the age of 30 and younger, has probably tried to spit a bar in the studio at least once. It was like a epidemic. So It's supply and demand. When there's that many studios and that many people trying to rap, you got to lower the rates because everybody's trying to do it. But back then, in 1979, 1980, studio time was expensive as hell. And they didn't have digital. Everything was analog then. So just like you see the film projectors in the movies, that's what artists used to record on back then. It's called reel to reels. And the film for the reels is expensive. And when you have to cut and you have to go over a mistake, it's very time consuming. So the amount of studio time, you really can't afford to make mistakes and you really can't be wasting time, is basically what I'm trying to say. So the fact that young Ralph Tresvant was ready and he was on it, it really kind of blew the rest of the kids away. And I think in some ways it straightened them out to school them that this is nothing to be playing with. If we trying to really get out of these projects in Boston, we got to follow Ralph's lead. All right. So I kind of like that part. I love that part. Okay, the contracts. When they signed the contracts and it's $500, and then I think he threw in a Betamax VCR. That was the VCR that was before the VHS VCR. Trust me, it didn't last that long. I think the Beta VCR lasted like, it felt like 2 years, if that. And VHS just blew it out the water. And obviously now you can't even buy VHS. You can't buy VHS at a secondhand store anymore. But $500 then is a lot of money, so they was excited initially, but you have to look at it from the standpoint that's advance money. So this is basically just for signing and having a little bit of money in your pocket. But even back then, I'm thinking $500, man. I mean, it probably took care of the rent for about 3 months, maybe 2 months. But after that, then the parents is gonna be like, well, where's the rest of the money at? Which comes up to another aspect of the first episode tonight, was that when they got those royalty checks and it was like only $1 and they were so mad. Dude, Ace Wood Harris, the manager, was not jerking them. The parents might have felt like he was jerking them, but dude, it's called splits. In the record business, it's splits. So if when you do a contract for just a song or album, the producer of the song automatically gets 50%. Okay, so let's just say instead of New Edition, it's Track Laser, the hip hop artist. So I will get only half if I make the biggest song in America right now, and Metro Boomin produced it. I'm not getting 100% of the profit of that money. Metro Boomin automatically gets 50%. So imagine. So that's just me. But if you have a group of young kids that didn't produce the song, so automatically that's 50%. And now you got 5 kids, and you splitting 50% by 5. That means each of them is only getting 10% of what the song generates. And so if you're only getting 10% of what the song generates, and then to say nothing about the other fees and stuff like that, which is what he was trying to explain to him, it ain't gonna be a lot of money. Why you think they was always mad at RZA and Wu-Tang Clan? Because RZA made the beats, so as the producer, you automatically get 50% of the revenue of the song, and then you got 8 other people in Wu-Tang Clan. How was they supposed to eat off of that? So that was kind of a sad thing that they showed, but it was reality. But obviously they wasn't trying to hear it. They like, hey man, we got bills to pay. They song is number one. I see them on TV. And for black people, if I see you on TV, that means you owe me some money. Because if you're on TV, it got to be some money involved. And obviously it was like that back then. But I also appreciated how humble Wood Harris was. When Lala wanted to take her son out the group, Ronnie DeVoe, And he said, "No, man, this is bigger than that. This is his chance to make it. Let him stay in the group. I'm gonna just fall back." And they did a nice transition on showing them getting older. Um, I think it was a good balance. I can already predict that some people will probably complain and said they spent too much time with New Edition when they were little kids. But if it wasn't for Candy Girl, we would never know about New Edition as adults. You saw that when they got the new, well, no, actually it was still Wood Harris. When he showed them in the billboard, he was explaining how the music industry works. That song was number one ahead of Michael Jackson. You know what I mean? So uh I know some of y'all might have felt that they spent too much time on that, but not really, because like I said, without Candy Girl, you don't have a New Edition. So I thought it was a real good job. It's going to be interesting to see our boy Hakeem from Empire portray Michael Bivins. I think that was a good casting choice. He definitely has the feel, and you can already see that when you're in a group and you're relegated to doing background vocals, the majority of the studio session and recording centers around the lead vocalist. And I know that these young cats really kind of didn't totally understand that, and they might have not reacted the way that they should have. But that's just the way it is. We got to make sure the lead vocals are right and everything is good there. And then we can follow up and make sure everything harmonizes, all the levels are right with background vocals. But background vocals means just that. You're in the background. And some people aren't humble enough to handle that. So it was very irresponsible for them to leave Ralph Tresvant in the studio by himself and go chase some girls at the mall, because what them young dudes don't understand is that the only reason I'm about to give you some and mess with you is because you New Edition. And if you leaving studio sessions early and leaving Ralph Tresvant hanging, that's all the more reason for them to say, well, what do we need with the rest of them? We can just make him a solo artist. And it was even colder that they did that, and they didn't have the knowledge that Ralph Tresvant was offered the solo deal and given a chance to leave Ricky, Bobby, and Mike and Ronnie and all them behind. And he said, no, if you want me, you got to bring my boys with me. And I thought that was honorable. So, man, kudos to BET. Y'all been kind of coming up kind of short over the past few years with some of the stuff that y'all been doing. But I was proud to see y'all take something from the black legacy of R&B music right before it bridged over into the hip hop realm and put it out there. And I'm excited to see what's going to happen for episode number 2. This is your boy. Make sure you go down there and you see that little button that says subscribe. Make sure you hit that. We out of here.